Good evening, campers. I hope you're going well. It's Andy here with another Professional Human Series episode. I hope everything is tracking well for you and your friends and your family and your loved ones so far this week. Team, a big thank you firstly to Anywhere Auctions for being big supporters of the show. Really appreciate everything that they've been doing for the real estate space, mainly in Victoria, but very much across Australia. They've been helping a lot of agencies to get on board with the technology bandwagon and have been really helping to handhold a lot of officers in transitioning through to today's modern age. I really appreciate everything that they've done. Gang, how are we? How are we out of 10? More importantly, though, I want to ask a bit more of a specific question. How are we feeling about our role and our business right now out of 10? As we're coming out of various states of restriction and lockdown and, freedom if you're over in Western Australia, of course. But we're going into the spring selling season, which generally brings with it its own excitement and its own tensions and all the rest of it. I want to know how you're feeling about your business and your role moving forward as we look towards the final sprint in 2021. And of course, looking that little bit further towards 2022, it's rapidly approaching. I was speaking to a friend of mine who I've collaborated with wonderfully well over the last few months in Lauren Kirk today from Regrowth, and we were sort of baffled at the fact that it's only 10 weeks before Christmas, right? So, just to really put the frighteners on you, by the way, gang, apparently it's only 10 weeks before Christmas. Team, put your scores in the doors in the comment section below. Let me know how you're feeling about how you're feeling within your role, if you're within a team, or if you're a salesperson, or if you own a business. How do you feel your position? How are you feeling? How confident are you feeling moving forward? Are you worried? Are you nervous? Are you anxious because of the fact that you feel that you have to make up for some lost ground, perhaps? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below as to how you are crack-a-lacking. Team, Christopher, good to see you, my friend. I'm so excited for Freedom-ish coming to Melbourne. Freedom-ish being the appropriate word there, my friend. So, no, I'm glad that you clarified that by putting freedom-ish. I couldn't agree with you more there, sir. Although, I will say, I've been a bit of a whinging pom today. I'm not going to lie. I've been a bit of a whinging pom. Now, for me, I can lose money, right? I can, money can be made, right? You can always make more money. Opportunities can be lost, but you can always find more opportunities if you look for them properly, right? The only thing that really gets on my tits, right, that really irritates me about all this lockdown stuff is when it starts messing with my kids. That's the only nerve that really does get to me. And my daughter, Eliza, who is 7, she's in year 1, and some of you may have seen her on a past episode as my co-host. Bless her. She was in prep last year and obviously year 1 this year. Hasn't seen her school for a whole year yet. We're supposed to go back to school for the first time tomorrow, and we find out today that apparently one case in a prep class has resulted in the whole school being shut down. Bless her. She's had the rug pulled from under her feet, and she's handling it like such a champion. It's ridiculous how much admiration I've got for that little human. She's an absolute bloody rock star, I swear. Anyway, team, let's crack on with the episode that I want to get stuck into today, which I'm really excited about, actually. And I'm going into my wheelhouse, gang. I'm going into auction land. So please look, if you're, if you're in property management and you don't think that this is going to be relevant to you, just bear with me for a little bit, because the premise of everything that I'm talking about is going to play into every element of our real estate industry. Of that, there is no doubt. I'm just going to use auctions as a very obvious sort of way of highlighting it, right? Now, this is what we want to talk about, gang. It's around online bidding. And whether you like it or not, team, it is here to stay. Now, as I've mentioned in the little in my little spiel above this video, above this session, I've mentioned that there will be a heck of a lot of people that are just going to be looking forward to getting back to the way it should be, back to the way it's always been, right? Back to on-site auctions, doing it as it should be done. And that's probably going to be the thing that makes a lot of people come unstuck. A lot of professionals come unstuck if you are running your auction campaigns and thinking that you're just going to be able to go back to the way that they once were. We've just got to face up to the fact, gang, that the world has evolved. It's been forced to evolve, and as such, every single element of our process needs to be looked at and potentially evolved moving forward, and none more so than auction day. All right, now I've been really, really lucky in the sense that I've had a chance to do lots and lots of online auctions, which has been fab, and it's been lots of fun. It's been, for me, will it ever replace the aura of an on-site auction? No, of course not, because you've not got that natural human, feeding off each other's energies and all that sort of stuff. You can't replicate that through a screen. However, I felt that it still did a really, really good job in making the most of the attention and the urgency in the buyer population, right? So I still feel that it has played a very, very good role in advancing the lives of customers, of vendors, of sellers, of buyers, but as well as real estate businesses, right? Now, moving forward, I know, because I've already spoken to a number of agents and agencies and directors about this, not just in Victoria, but throughout, different states around the country. And the language that I hear is so typical, shall we say, of the real estate space, in the sense that, a lot more of us than what we actually dare to admit really, really struggle with change. We are really, really struggle with change. And I can understand it across the board, right? But when it comes to auctions, I really do get and empathize with the nervousness that is put upon a team or an agent or a director. And that's on top of the natural nervousness that we all feel come auction day, right? We're on center stage, we're there, we've got nowhere to hide, it's now or never type stuff. You then throw in that extra nervousness of having to evolve the process and perhaps adjusting your process slightly in order to make the most of it. I can get it, right? I get it. But we've had but we've had long enough to actually come to terms with this whole thing, right? Steve Carroll, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, he openly said last year, during the first lockdown, that all that this is going to do is accelerate the way that we utilize technology in terms of the professional side of things, but also in terms of consumer bill, right? And he's absolutely spot on. It's accelerated it exponentially, to be perfectly honest. Christian, hope you're going well, my friend. Chicken tzatziki. I don't know how you spell it. So, team, we need to make sure, right, that we are doing everything that we can to evolve our process so that we can actually serve our customer base, our community, in the way that it wants to be served now, right? Because it's had so long to get used to all this technology and so on and so forth. So how's it going to look, right? And more to the point, how are we going to be able to convey this to our sellers, to our vendors, if we're looking at bringing on a system like Anywhere Options, of course, to into our VPA and whatnot? How are we going to be able to justify or explain why we need to have it in our auction process? So it's an interesting conversation, because me as an auctioneer, look, I'm fortunate in the sense that technology has not really been a major concern to me. It's, I don't mind using technology, clearly. All right. But for a lot of auctioneers as well, the nervousness around not having them all in front of you, it can be very, very daunting if you haven't thought through the process. Okay. So why, first and foremost, why is this an absolute statement of fact? Okay. And why is it a non-negotiable that we're going to need to have a measure of off-site bidding available from here till forever? Okay. So the first one is, and this is more of a short-term thing, right? It's the whole vaxxed versus unvaxxed. The fact that in a number of different states, we have to have double vaxxed people only that can be on site to bid at the auctions, right? Mainly New South Wales and Victoria, from what I can understand. But if we don't have, and this is only in the short term, if we don't have the ability to accommodate unvaccinated or the ones that aren't double vaxxed at our auctions, then we can't look at our vendors, our sellers, in the face and tell them truthfully that we know for a fact that all of the potential buyers and bidders are there ready to go. Ultimately, team, whether we're vaxxed or unvaxxed, it doesn't affect the need to get ourselves a home, right? And I'm pretty sure that even the unvaccinated ones, even the ones that aren't double vaxxed, pretty sure that their money's good as well. And it doesn't matter what your political persuasion is around, or your health concerns are around this whole vaccination thing. Ultimately, we need to get the best price. And what that means is making sure that we are providing every possible avenue, every possible way, so that buyers can get involved at the auction. This is, if you don't have, and I'm going to use a bit of a risky sort of illustration in this, right? If you can't accommodate at your auctions for unvaccinated bidders, right, then that is a bit like saying that you're only allowing certain races into an auction, right? It is pretty much segregation, and that's what a lot of people have highlighted throughout all of this palaver, right? Is that it's creating huge divides in society, and it's very much made people quite binary on their opinions around all of this, right? Ultimately, though, whatever our opinions are, we have to put them to one side in order to service our entire community. Otherwise, we just simply aren't giving our vendors, our sellers, in all of the opportunities to get the most amount of money for our auctions. And in terms, and I actually had this conversation with a potential vendor of a client last week, I think it was, and for Anywhere Auctions, I believe it's $200 an auction, right? To have the streaming service and the contract and all that sort of stuff set up, ready to go. And they asked us, so why do we need to pay that extra $200? Because we can have on sites now, because we're talking about an auction in a few weeks' time. And I said, yeah, but what about those that aren't allowed to be at the auction? You're kind of going to want them to be there as well if they're prepared to pay the money, right? Well, yeah, of course. Well, this is why we need to do it. We need to have a secure process that allows us to accept bids from somewhere else in as seamless a way as we possibly can. We need to make sure that we can focus on the job at hand. So we need to make sure that the technology that we're using in order to have those off-site bidders is tip top, okay, is as smooth as it possibly can be. So it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer for any potential seller or vendor that actually wants to give themselves the best chance of making the most amount of money. Right now, you might get the occasional vendor that says, well, I don't want to, I only want vaccinated people at my auction. Now, I've actually dealt with vendors in the past that have been racist and have said to me specifically, I don't want Indians coming through my home, or I don't want Afghans coming through my home, right? It's shit, right? It's shocking. But, even with those types of people, ultimately, you don't give a stuff as long as the color of the money's the same and it's the right amount, surely. And if they still have a problem with that, then I never wanted to fucking deal with them anyway, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to help scumbags like that move forward. But in a softer sense and in a more sensitive sense for the now, for those people that are really, really nervous about, the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed, we've got to make sure that we can accommodate everybody throughout this process. Yeah. Or I don't want to pommy call on my auction. You know what, mate? It's funny you say that, but sometimes I have had people saying that my accent can be a bit thick at times. But anyway, so I've been working really hard on that. So, team, that's the first point that I need to make, is the fact that it is right now in the short term, There is zero reason as to why anybody would have any concerns or any issues with having off-site bidding available. Now, moving on from the short term and into the sort of more longer term stuff. Associated with it, though, is the long-term health concerns that people will have. People are going to be permanently scarred from this, from everything that's gone over the last little while. There's people that have become incredibly insular and introvert in who they are as human beings. I had a vendor that we did an online auction for, and it was for Most Effectively at Calder Real Estate. I can't remember the address, but it was for that particular agent. And the vendors of that particular property had become that nervous about everything that had gone on. And it combined with the fact that they'd had a really horrific car accident a few years ago and all that sort of stuff all came together. They moved to Tassie, and unfortunately, the wife of that couple can't leave the house because of everything that's gone on. That's just tipped her over the edge. She ain't going to be the only one. There's going to be a hell of a lot of nervousness around being around people that they don't know. Fact. It's going to take a long time for that to go away, team. A long time. Now, our job as professionals is to make sure that we remove as many barriers to entry as is humanly possible in order to make sure that this transaction can take place, right? If purchasers are nervous about coming into an environment that has a number of people at it that they don't know, that nervousness that they will feel bubbling up inside them will be distracting them from the job at hand. We can't have any distractions for any of our purchasers or our sellers when it comes to making sure we make the most of our auction. The minute that they get distracted or they look at someone and go, oh, geez, I don't like the look of them. They look dirty or whatever. All the shit that we know goes on in people's minds. Let's not beat around the bush. That's going to distract them from the job at hand, which is trying to buy the place. And if that happens, they are not likely to spend as much money as what they possibly could have if they were more comfortable in the environment that they were in. All right. Now, I can already hear, as we go through to the accelerated acceptance of technology, a number of agents and auctioneers saying, no, mate, at the end of the day, we need to make them work to our terms. We need to make them come onto our turf and play the game by our rules. I'm sorry, but that is just so short-sighted in my opinion. And also, for me, it shows a small degree of insecurity in your own skill set, to be perfectly frank. Gang, when it comes to things like the acceptance of technology and understanding that one of the reasons why people have been forced to become so accepting of technology is because of the fear of everything that's been going on around us. People all of a sudden aren't that fussed about using this in order to make serious major transactions in their lives. It's broken some serious barriers around utilizing technology and trusting technology to pull through for them when it comes to moving their lives forward, right? It's just fact that everybody's become way more accustomed to utilizing technology way more often. Therefore, there are g'day, Linda, where's your pink gavel? Therefore, team, it's absolutely critical that we have to accept that ourselves. If you're going to be one of those agents that's going to absolutely demand that you come on site, you are forcing square pegs through round holes, emotionally speaking. Do you honestly think that that's going to invoke a positive reaction for those people that you are forcing to be at the auction in order to bid, when it comes to their decision making around how much money to spend? Right? It's just not even a debate. It's not even a debate. I will take a Pepsi challenge against anybody that wants to challenge me on this. Because from my point of view, I'm happy and comfortable and confident in my skill set as an auctioneer to make the most out of anybody wherever they are on whichever platform they are on. I've worked my arse off to build that skill set. And if you aren't comfortable in the same vein, you need to work your arse off or give it to someone that is. And it's the same with agents, right? You can't possibly, with everything that's gone on right now, say to people with a straight face, you have to be at the auction. Can't do it. You can't do it with a clear conscience. You can't do it and then think that you're going to be able to get them to work with you because you're forcing them, you're dictating to them, right, as to what they should be doing. At the end of the day, team, we've got much higher chance of creating a much healthier, and I'm talking healthier for the client, healthier for the buyer, healthier for the seller, healthier for the transaction. You're creating a much healthier environment to get a much better outcome by making our consumers feel a lot more comfortable in the process to which they are committing. End of. Like, there is not a debate in the sun that will trump that. None. Zero. I'll put a wager on it. I'll do whatever. Anybody wants to challenge me on that, you're just simply not paying attention to human behavior. You're sticking to a real estate textbook that is so antiquated nowadays. It is so hideously antiquated and hung up on old school behaviors, old school thought processes around how consumers behave. It's bollocks, really. It's bullshit. You must have to have a focus on paying attention to human behavior first, and then utilizing your abilities, your skill set, your knowledge, your awareness in order to maximize the value of that human behavior, utilizing the IQ that you have. That's the way round it has to be nowadays, my friends. Just has to. So that's the third point, right? Is accelerated acceptance of technology. Here's the other one, though. The convenience factor. How many of us, right, nowadays have been absolutely conditioned to have convenience so high up on our priority list, it's not even funny. If we can't get our bloody whatever it is from bloody boohoo.com or Game Station or whatever shop it is, if we can't do it by doing this and hitting pay and having it turn up at our doorstep, we don't like doing it anymore. Now, that human behavior, now I know that sounds like micro in terms of product transactions and whatnot, but if you think about the sheer volume of those transactions that have been made, that is subconsciously embedded a need for convenience across the board. Now, the counter argument to this, I can already hear it coming through the screen, is, yeah, but we're not there. That means that we're not going to get to work with our buyers to make sure that we're getting the most amount of money for our vendors because we're not going to be alongside them and blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, gang. But if they are that type of person that is going to react in a different way to having you next to them, they are more likely to pay more money by sitting on their couch feeling a lot more comfortable about the process than they are being harassed by a suit. We've got to get rid of this, team. Ultimately, our job as professionals is to make sure that we're making the most of the situation, right? If you've got buyers that are saying to you, 11 o'clock on Saturday is not really convenient for me, I'm afraid. Or, yeah, look, I can't make it to Saturday 11. That is just basically saying one of two things. One, they ain't interested in the home, or two, you haven't provided a convenience level that is absolutely in line with how they want to move forward with their transaction. I'm telling you now, team, if you just accept that this fourth point here, it's going to happen whether you like it or not, you are way more likely to have more people be active in your auctions. You will go from maybe 2 or 3 registrations to 6 or 7. You've got to understand and accept that out of however many registrations you have, you're not likely to see 100% of them actually take part. That's exactly why you need to make sure you get those numbers up in terms of those registrations. For example, this weekend, I've got an auction that is looking to move to on-site, right? And they've already, and this is first weekend in Victoria, they've already had 2 buyers that have said they prefer to bid on site, and they've had 2 buyers that have said specifically that they want to bid from home. That's already a 50-50 split on the very first auction that we're looking to make this thing happen with. That's not a coincidence, gang. That is just a statement of fact that this shit is here to stay. And for me, it's awesome. I've been beating this drum for a couple of years. In the UK, they've been doing it for a couple of decades, man. Now, I can understand that concerns around internet and things like that. Fair enough. That's where you have a backup plan. And we all should have had them for our online auctions up to this point. If you are struggling with the internet connection or the platform or whatever it is, the last thing we want to have happen to you is for you to miss out on an opportunity based on the technology. Therefore, if you do struggle, we will give you a chance to come back. But at the same time, you've got to acknowledge that you are struggling and get a hold of one of our agents ASAP via text or giving them a call. And if you can't get back on, you can continue bidding via phone. Having that backup plan is really, really important. We have to have off-site bidding capacity in every single auction from here on in. If you really want to be able to look at your sellers in the face and say that you've done everything you can to get all of the buyers to the property for auction. There are just way too many reasons as to why you can't ignore this. And if you're really struggling with the technology thing, I get it. You've got to have people available on the phone. If you've got lots of people that want to register off-site and you're not happy with the technology side of things, then you're going to need to create a WhatsApp group, or you're going to, and have the bidding come through via that WhatsApp chat at the very, very minimum. That's probably the most basic way of doing it, is to set up a WhatsApp group, or you can't do an iMessage because some of them might be on Android. So a WhatsApp group with all of the relevant bidders. Now, unfortunately, there's going to be a privacy concern with that because all of their telephone numbers are going to be getting shown. So you've got to be very, very clear and open and very careful around that, right? Very careful, to the point where I actually don't know if it is feasible. I don't know if you can withhold numbers on WhatsApp. I'll check that out for you. But this is exactly what I'm saying, team. You've got to make sure you've thought through this process. You've got to make sure that you have this availability, because otherwise you are not servicing your auction campaigns and your auction day as well as what you should be doing. End of. There's just zero argument that's not bred out of antiquity. That's not from I hate saying the word old school because I love some old school stuff, traditional service and all that sort of shit. But in this respect, aversion to evolution in your process will lead to you losing business. It will lead to your clients missing out on income for their biggest assets. Fact. Absolute fact. All right. Linda, what software do you use, Andy? There are heaps out there, right? There are heaps out there. I have used most of them, right, in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through my own stuff or whether it's through other offices that are using other stuff. I genuinely feel that Anywhere Auctions has got an incredibly robust platform. I really, really do. Not only because of the fact that their technology has just been more reliable than a few others, but in terms of dropouts and things like that, the ease of use on the iPad is very, very cool as well. They've got the capability to have the contracts as a part of their system, which means it takes out the need for DocuSign or anything like that. It can automatically populate the client's data onto the contract and then whip it out. but it also has the security element to it as well. You know, credit card pins and things like that to make sure that people are putting the right amount of initial deposit in there in order to register for the auction. Okay, so that's why I like Anywhere auctions. I do genuinely like them. I wouldn't even dreamt of having them associate with me if I didn't feel that they were legit. And like I said, team, the really cool thing about them is the fact that they didn't go missing when the industry needed them the most. They hung around. They were helping people out. They were going out of their way to support offices with their technology needs. I really do. I saw it happen and I heard about it happen, which is another reason why I had them come on board, to be honest. How do I feel about Zoom? Look, and Anywhere Auctions know about this. I do some through Zoom. I've got a Zoom process that I use, and I'd probably say it's about 50-50 Zoom to Anywhere Auctions for me right now. Zoom is a process that can work fine. You just, especially if you're going to go on site with it, you just got to be careful about that is where you got to be a little bit more careful about the internet. Anywhere Auctions and platforms like this have been designed in order to make sure that stream is as efficient as it possibly can be. And you know, and they've got tech people in the background to help you out straight away. Whereas Zoom, it's over in fucking America, Silicon Valley or wherever it is, right? So chances of you getting any support right at the time, slim to none. That's my only concern about it from an on-site point of view. In terms of online, yep, absolutely. Like in terms of at home, when I'm doing them from you know, my front room, I've done lots and lots of Zoom auctions, and you have got to become a bit of a Zoom ninja to make sure that they go smoothly. And if the auctioneer isn't comfortable in that, they've got to have some support to help them run it smoothly. Like I've ran all the ones for all of my clients because one, I like that extra element of control as an auctioneer. Two, as you all know, I can fucking talk for England anyway, so it doesn't matter if my hands are doing one thing and I'm saying another thing. It makes no difference because I can still see someone's waiting to come in the room. I can still call for a first call, second call. Here comes a late one to the party. Third and final. Like for me, I've practiced it, right? That's all part of the parcel of being a professional fucking auctioneer. Practice. I've actually been practicing, believe it or not, to make sure that it just doesn't cause me any bumps in the road, right? But you have got to practice working on whatever platform that you use. Ask for dummy runs. Do dummy runs if you're doing Zoom auctions, right? You know, I've already worked on how Zoom can work on site and whatnot, how that's going to look and feel and all the rest of it. Played around with it in terms of, you know, gone down the street and done a little bit and just tested it out and all that sort of jazz. So you just got to make sure you test and learn and test and learn and test and learn before you go out and do it. It's a bit like role playing, right? Rick Rushton, who is one of my mentors and a really good friend of mine, and I'm grateful for that. I'm blessed for that. He said very, very early on in my career, why would you practice on a commission check? It's probably not a good idea, right? So, Linda, does the penciler manage the online platform? If you've got a team, then I would absolutely have someone on site with the iPad running the show, running the penciler side of the show, and on looking after that Zoom room if you're going to do it by Zoom. But if you're going to have an Anywhere Auctions, then you'll have a penciler look after the iPad. Obviously, with me being at home alone, I'm not alone, but you know what I mean, in terms of the auction side of things, and having agents all over town utilize my services. Again, I just practiced with the Anywhere Auctions iPad, and there's actually videos on my YouTube channel where you can see that I'm actually handling the iPad as well as calling the auction. But again, I can totally understand and appreciate if most auctioneers didn't want to do that. I'm just cool with that because I've practiced. When we go on site, I actually will get one of the team members most likely to do that penciling in a more traditional sense, but obviously in a sort of more evolved way, so that the auctioneer can just go free flowing. And it actually provides another point of interaction as well, which is really, really cool. And you can play with that. Any auctioneer worth their salt can play with that. So say, for example, we take, a bid is on the street, and then we take an online bid of $1 million, for example. You can look down the barrel of the camera and say, welcome to you at $1 million. You're in the lead. Good for you. And then go back to the on-site. Look, technology's getting ahead of you. Time to fight fire with some traditional brute strength. Why don't you come back in at $1,020,000, $1,020,000? Wonderful. And back in the room we come. It's against the internet now, the World Wide Web. It's fighting against your team. Are you going to come back in? Press those buttons. Press them quick, though, first. And you sort of use that depth and tonality with the camera, as well as interacting with the people in the crowd and whatnot, right? It can provide a really, really, really cool extra element to the dynamic of an auction. I enjoy, right? That I find really entertaining. And I know that in terms of my arsenal, I can utilize that in a really cool way when I'm making sure, again, like I said, that I'm making the most out of all of the opportunities that I've got, whether it's on site, online, on the phone, via carrier pigeon. I don't give a shit. It's all fun to me. And that's what auctioneers should be doing, is embracing all of these different elements now that they've got to play with. And that's it, right? We've got more stuff to play with. It's cool. I love it. Right? Like, as an auctioneer, I honestly don't understand why you wouldn't want to have cool new stuff happening and whatnot. It's exciting, right? We should be excited before every auction anyway. And I've always said across the board, I get nervous before every single one. It means that I'm ready to rock and roll and I actually give a shit. But having the element of having the online bid, it's just fun. Just fun. So cool. Now, another concern that I can already hear is, but the people on site are just going to think that it's just some dummy bidding and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's where the auctioneer has to make it abundantly clear that all bidders that are not on site have been formally registered and have put an initial deposit forward, which is what I've been recommending across the time, in order to validate their registration. Okay. And proof of registration as well. At the end of the day, I mean, Victoria is the Lone Star state when it comes to not having registered bidders as a prerequisite for participation. But it's not exactly. It's not like you can't start doing it, right? It's not like you can't start doing it. It's nothing stopping you. Okay. I love it, but I'm intimidated that I can't keep up with the bids online. Is that as the auctioneer, Linda, or as the agent doing the penciling thing? That's like taking bids from trees. Nobody does that shit anymore. You'd be surprised, Cam. There are some people that still are notorious for doing that, which is stupid and shit and so naive to think that you ain't going to get busted when you blatantly are. But as the support agent, well, Linda, two things. One, practice. You have to do dummy runs. You have to, right? If you're serious about making these absolutely go home run out of the park, you got to do some practice with the platform. Okay, point one. And there's no getting around it. You can't just pick. It's the same as a computer game, right? You can't just pick up a computer game and automatically become amazing, right? You just can't do it. You practice it, right? I was shit at Super Mario when I was little, but I got very, very good very quickly through hours and hours and hours of practice. Hence why I wear glasses, because I would play too many computer games. And hence why I've got Pac-Man socks on. So practice is one thing. And the other thing is, if you are worried about the technology side of things, then just use your phone. Just have it on the phone. Dan, been doing registrations long before COVID. Filters the genuine, allows you to have genuine conversation with your vendor about. Couldn't agree more, mate. It couldn't come quick enough. We're at the RAIV in the auction committee. We've been lobbying this for as long as I can remember being in the committee, to be honest. So we are pushing for it a lot harder. But team, registering bidders is something that I want to do, to be honest. So Linda, that's point one, is practice. Point two, if you're struggling with the tech, just use your phone. If you've got multiple people though, right? If you've got multiple people, you can utilize text function. Just make sure that they've got access to a live stream. That's just, no, you can't avoid technology, but if you want to make it as easy as possible, have them watch the auction from wherever they are, and then they can send you text messages through. Understand though, and this is one point I will make, is that with a Facebook Live, there is a natural lag. There is about, I think it's an 18 to 20 something second lag at least in terms of that live component to it. Okay, so you've got to be very, very careful about using Facebook Live, i.e. I wouldn't. I would utilize a different streaming platform that is specifically for streaming, or video call at the very least. You can do FaceTime. You can do a house party. If you're really struggling with that, you can do all sorts. You can take your laptop and put up a little trestle table so it feels like you're at an office. That's actually what they do in England. So that in England, or in the UK, sorry, they don't have auctions in front of the property. They will have 50 or 60 auctions, right? And they'll do what they call a portfolio auction, where they've got auction companies. Like SDL was a firm that I kept in touch with and went and watched a couple of their portfolio auctions when I was over in the UK at times. And they will hire out this massive event suite and it was amazing. They had like a mini expo in one third, the theatre in the middle, where they had the auctioneer, and then the right-hand person there, the penciler, effectively, that was monitoring purely just there to monitor the internet bids. And then they had what they call the bull run, I think they called it, where the agents were there with their telephone bidders. And then they had a contract pit in their final third. Now, Brent Puller, who I feel he's just such a good bloke, and he's a really good friend of mine. Years ago, we were talking about bringing this into Australia for apartment auctions and apartment auction portfolios of apartment auctions and stuff. And I've worked it all out. Like I've got the process licked. I think it'd be an incredible way to go. So yeah, like Burgess Rawson to a degree, absolutely. They do commercial. Yeah, Burgess Rawson do it in the commercial sector really, really well. It's just that in the UK they do it at scale for everything. So they'll have 50 or 60 auctions in the portfolio. Some will get sold before, and then in that contract pit, they have the ones that are passed in on a rolling sort of ladder, shall we say? And then you generally see people going and making inquiries about them afterwards, which is cool. And it sort of creates a sort of recyclable system of buyer interest there. So for the passed in properties. COVID silver lining was that limited numbers meant we were only inviting registered bidders. True, Linda, but that's all you need to focus on right now. If I were you, though, Linda, because you are the leading lady and you'll be interacting with buyers and so on and so forth on site, I'd have someone else look after the technology. If you're the listing agent, to be honest, that would be my recommendation. Is if you're the listing agent, I would probably have someone else look after the tech side of things and the monitoring of the online bids and the calling of the online bids as well. So whoever's looking after the stream, looking after the Anywhere Auctions pad or the Zoom or whatever it is that you end up using, they've got to be ready to call a bid out and make sure the auctioneer hears it. Online bid, 1.3 mil. They've got to be ready for that and ready to go with it and ready for the interaction and the fun and the banter and all the rest of it, right? Practice. It's really, really important. And preparation. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Get your shit together and make sure that everybody's briefed to within an inch of their lives. I've never heard of a team that's been over-briefed. Never heard of it. But I've certainly seen a lot of teams go to shit because they haven't been briefed well enough. Okay. So that would be my recommendation around that. It's nothing to fear. It's nothing to fear as long as you put the preparation into it. Okay. So that's my 2 cents on online. I could carry on for hours and hours and hours. I just fucking love auctions. They're just the best. It's just purely a geek, selfish you all know by now, right? So, team, if you do have any challenges or any questions, I encourage you, I invite you to challenge me on anything that I've said about today, or any. If you wanted to challenge my not bravado, but my absolute sort of one-eyed thought process and opinion on this, I'd love for you to challenge me. It's the way that we all move forward and progress as human beings, is by being challenged. So if you do want to challenge me, please do. I'm not going to take offense. If anything, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to appreciate it. I'm going to thank you for it. Okay. But I'm rather bullish on this, that this has to happen. And the thing is, right, so think about it this way. If you're, and I'll leave you on this, if you're at a listing presentation, right, and you're in an auction centric area, or you know, or you feel that there's going to be more than one agent that's going to be pitching an auction, right? What would you rather be? The agent that just goes through the standard auction spiel that a whole bunch of people will already have started going back to, and you fucking know you have, or are you going to highlight that you're an evolved species of real estate professional by saying this very simple question? Have other agents discussed with you the dynamics between off-site and on-site bidding and what we need to do to ensure we can have both? No. Why? What do you mean? What's that mean? Right. On-site bidding, da 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 da. Off-site bidding is for those that either in the short term aren't double vaxxed, or they're nervous about health concerns, or they just love the convenience of bidding from home, because lots of people have become very accustomed to it now. There's been lots of transactions done online now. We want to make sure, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that we provide as many open doors for as many bidders to walk through as is possible, both on-site and online. The last thing that we will want to have happen is for us to miss out on potential bidders because we haven't accommodated for our consumers holistically. As I'm sure you can appreciate, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the last thing that we would want to have happen is to see two bidders walk away from competing for your auction because of the fact that they didn't feel comfortable being on site. What would you rather have? Get the right amount of money with an online bidder, or compromise and just have on site? That's why we need to make sure we have off-site and on-site taken care of. This is how we do it, by da 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 da. And the result, the what, and what happens as a result is that we can say to you straight to your face that everything has been done to make sure that every single bidder that is available and that is keen is here, whether it's online or in person. If you are, think about it, right? If you are the only agent that does that, or if you're the only agent that does it with a degree of confidence that you're just sweet as a nut with online and on-site, and off-site bidding, you're away at the races, because every single human being has been affected by what's gone on. You're not hedging your bets by saying this. You are speaking to every single human being on this planet's truth. And I ain't even sugarcoating that. I ain't even laying mayo on that. That's just a statement of fact. You are talking to something that every single human being has been affected by. And that's going to create a level of resonation with your clients, with your clients. It's going to make them feel that you've actually paid attention to the world and you've evolved as a professional in order to still be able to maximize what that new world looks like. Pretty solid stuff, if you ask me. I'd rather go that way if I was still on the front line. And if I were you, I'd do that too. All right, team. I'm going to love you and leave you. If you want to challenge me, you can DM me. Or you can post a comment and say that I'm talking with shit. I'm talking about shit, which I know I'm not. But you can challenge me if you like. If you want to have a call, you want to give me a call, you want to have a chat, no stress. Just send me a DM, we'll work something out. No problem at all. But I'm telling you now, you got to make sure that you get on top of this. And I haven't even spoken about the business benefits of this. But I've taken up enough of your time. So I'm going to leave that for another day. Yeah, I'm going to leave it for another day. Team, Victorians, we're almost there. For the rest of the country, make sure that you do everything you can to accommodate all of your consumers as best as you possibly can. Stay safe, healthy, and happy, though, in whichever state, territory, country you are in. I love you all. Take care. Stay safe. We'll speak to you soon. I'll see you Friday night, 9 o'clock, same back channel. Take care.